Maybe if I'm looking, I can hit the mute button before it happens. Now let's, aha! That wasn't as bad.
Got it.
As it normally is. So, all righty. Evening, guys. Hope y'all are tuned in, settled back with your drinks. We are sitting down and spending time with Her Grace, Master Elzbieta, correct?
Yes.
You are a royal peer. You are a member of the Pelican, Order of the Pelican, and a Master of Defense. Is there anything I'm missing there?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
All around cool person.
All around cool person.
Hold
back
on.
with your drinks. We are
No.
sitting.
I did.
Nice.
Awesome.
Wait, now I'm muted. We're good. We're good.
Excellent.
Fabulous. So tell us how you got started in the SCA.
Oh boy. Well, actually my SCA experience started in the early 90s. I can't remember the exact day, year. So I just kind of say really I became really more entrenched in the SCA the year I graduated from high school in 95. But I know I started before then. And part of it was my brother was to blame a little bit. We played in a different live steel group. And he had started before me. And it was kind of that cool, fun, geeky thing. I played D&D, like, who in the SCA really didn't, right? And this was a way to just kind of have a little bit of fun, and go camping and do those sorts of things. And we would a lot of the founders of the live steel group we were in actually had come from the SCA, and so they we'd heard a lot of stories, and there would be a group of us who would go to and my brother who would go to Estrella, because that was the big thing that everyone would talk about, the big event that people would check out and go see. So we, because we were a tiny itty bitty group and had nothing like the SCA. So Estrella was the big introduction to our existence, to the SCA. So I remember I went to my first Estrella in garb. I won't even call it garb. I just threw together leggings and a tunic or whatever, because that's pretty much what I had for my life steel group to start with as well. And because this was early 90s, before we really appreciated linen like we do today. And it was at Estrella Mountain Park, and I just walked through Merchants Row, and it was amazing. I got to see the battlefield, and it was amazing, and met a lot of people. And then I ended up the following year going to Fop Revel. So that, so Estrella was my first big event, and then for like huge size, and then locally in the Barony Fop Revel was my first event that I went to, and got all dressed up for it, and the theme, and danced and had a lot of fun and met a lot of people. And so I began to slowly dabble in the SCA, but I didn't really play. I still was very committed to the live steel group. I actually reigned over there as Crown. I became a peer over there. That's the same group that my brother got his injury from, but we still continued to play. The way I got brought into the SCA was kind of interesting, because it was actually my brother's knight, Duke Matthias, who was needing a place. There was a time where there were he was held out of Crown. There was a lot of knights held out of Crown tournament one year, and he was one of them. And he kind of was just like, I need to take a break from the SCA for a bit. And so he came over to start playing and kind of dabbling. He wanted to still practice and do things. And so he came over and played with us a little bit because of his connection with my brother. And I was queen at the time of that live steel group. And so I got to know him. and a lot more. And then eventually he went back and continued to play. And there were some other people that would come from the SCA, like Mistress Elaine would come and teach us dance, and Wolfier. So I knew them from way back. And so there's a lot of connections between our local groups. And Matthias then eventually won his first crown, not too long after this time period. And he and his queen, Charolta, had convinced myself and now Mistress Cecilia out in the Outlands, but at the time she lived here, to tag along and be a part of their court and come have fun. And they kind of, and Mistress Cecilia played over, she was at the time in a relationship with they were together, and with my brother. And so we tagged along on the entire first reign of Matthias and Charolta. And Matthias had a Firebird. I think that was the kind of car he had, some kind of hot rod. And if you know the old kingdom thrones, they ain't gonna fit in a hot rod. I had it in a Isuzu Trooper. And so because we were traveling a lot of times, I've eventually just, the thrones started to be, I became the transporter for the thrones on faraway adventures. And occasionally he and I remember one event we drove up to and had no air conditioning, but it was better. He's like, I can't fit the thrones in the Firebird, let's go. And it just got to meet a lot of great people. It became, I just really dove in and had a lot of fun. And at that time, my passion in the other group that I was having was kind of waning because, it sounds kind of sad. I feel kind of embarrassed to say it, but I felt like a big fish in a little pond. And I didn't feel like there was any, I felt like the growth I wanted to do was at odds with the group. And I felt like if I wanted to grow, I was going to force them to change too much to do, so, and that just, I just wasn't there. The passion I had for it was, I was losing it.
Yeah.
But I found it again in all of the excitement of the stuff I was doing with the SCA and I mean, diving right into a reign and being like, seeing all the glory and the fun after experience, I'd been a queen in a different group and giving out awards and doing all the things, but seeing it in a much grander scale was really kind of cool. Got my AOA from Matthias. And so, it just started a great friendship. He was my first king. And eventually several years later, he was with Lisa Bryn, Sir Bryn from the West Kingdom. She had moved out with our laws and things for crown, wasn't yet able to be fought for. And so Matthias asked to fight for, he could fight for me. And so I was very blessed to reign with him. My first reign was his ducal reign. And that just at that moment was, kind of just sucked me in full, and there was no going back. Because I basically went from AOA to a county in a matter of about 2 years. And so there was really no going. And in my first reign is when I found my love of rapier. That community just sucked me in. I had done rapier and I'd done combat in the Lifesteal group, but I hadn't done in the 2 years prior to me starting, I think it was about 2 years approximately, to me really kind of starting to be active in the SCA and becoming crown for the first time. I didn't touch a rapier in the SCA. I water bared, I partied all night, I did all the other things. I did, I didn't do anything that involved the battlefield except for water bear. I spent a lot of time water bearing with, Mistress Mariana and a lot of the other people who were on the water bearing field at that time. back in those days. And then I got the fighting bug, and I'm like, sorry, I'm gonna fight now.
So without dating any of us,
Let's not.
how long you been in the SCA?
Well, I would say my first reign was is easy because I was Crown Princess September 11th, so I can date that one always. So 2001 was when I stepped up, and then I think Matthias's first reign was 98, but I know I was dabbling in 94, 95, but I really and was becoming more enmeshed, like camping regularly, going to Australia and camping with the Landsknechts, or camping with our Rundschubverflecht, the early version of the Landsknechts before they became the Landsknechts. I have, and then, a lot of people laugh, like, really, your first few camping events at Australia? I was like, yes, I was spent all night with Landsknechts. Like, those old school guys are like, graduated from high school with my brother. I was like the little sister. I was they took care of me and made sure I had a good time. And, before I started branching out into my own households and doing my own thing. So I would say probably, like, I usually date myself back to like 94 when I started playing, but really hardcore 98 was when I just completely dove in.
Very few people don't have that 2 to 3 year feel the water dabble, I know for me, mine was 2000, only it took me 5 years to decide, okay, I'm gonna plant my feet and here we go. So, and you?
Oh, let's see. Calafia 92, 93 range. Out in Calafia, we were doing that, and Estrella and Potrero, both May and September War, Great Western War, way back in those days. Yeah.
So, we all kind of take that couple of years to get our feet wet. So you are also known as the queen that nobody can catch. Where does that come from? Now, I've been on your court. I know this, but for those of us tuning in that haven't had the pleasure, tell us where that comes from.
I like to squirrel. No, I think part of it is that I'm just very, as my friends and I'm type A. When I need to get stuff done, I'm a bull in a china shop sometimes too. And I just, but it's that thing of like, I forget sometimes because I'm so type A that I've gotten better over the reigns. Like the last few, I feel like I've been a lot more recognizing the fact that there are people with me. But the first few reigns, especially my first reign and definitely my second reign, if something needed to happen, I would just go whoop, and go to get it done, and oftentimes forget that I had an entourage that needed to come along with me, and sometimes, bless their hearts, they weren't paying attention, and so also I would just try to sneak off. Because one of the things I despise the most about being crowned, the guys can do it when they're king, but not the queens. I don't like to pee with everybody watching me. And so it became kind of a thing for me too, to try to like sneak away so I could do my business in private. But that was a part of it. And I'm fast. I have long legs I'm not a tall person, but I have pretty long legs. And so I can walk pretty fast. And everybody, those of you all know, Ed Gostomsky, my brother, I had to keep up with him as a kid. So I learned how to walk really, really fast.
Yes.
So that's fast is my natural state of walking. And even now that I'm slower, people still tell me I'm still fast. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to be slower and calmer.
So I have had the pleasure of being on your court the last 3 times.
I'm glad you say it's a pleasure because
No, actually it is.
Great times,
Because
great
and
times.
I know about your tendency to sneak away or try to sneak away if nobody's noticing. And I kind of employed my own tactics. I developed a rule of thumb because your very first reign, I raised boys. They were little. They were still, young. And I thought, God, I got 2 boys. If I can keep up with those 2, I can keep up with her. Oh, hell. No, no. I actually had to think for a moment and go, oh, wow, that's a lot of energy that I don't even put into my 2 boys, But I developed my own little game. Could I keep you in line of sight? That's all that counted. Could I keep you in line of sight?
and that's a fair rule. I mean, because really in the game that we have, nobody's gonna really hurt me. I'm not gonna get truly kidnapped.
I've heard a story, and we'll have to get Baroness Cat.
Yeah, she did get kidnapped.
Yes,
Yeah.
she did. And Sir Justin was livid, is the story I've
I
heard.
don't remember if that was an Estrella or a Baron's War. I think it was a Baron's War, but I don't remember 100%. But
Yep, and they took her off and fed her drinks all day long. And
Yep.
held her
I'm
hostage.
just disappointed nobody bothered trying to kidnap me and do that. Like, give me a nice charcuterie board and some vino. You can kidnap me all day. Oh,
Right? That's what I thought. You're welcome to. Take note, everybody. You are welcome to kidnap me.
as
Have
long
a
as
nice
there is a charcuterie board and some vino, I'm
Yes.
in.
And some shade.
Exactly.
And a little bit of shade.
Oh, yeah, and a little bit of shade.
A little bit of
So,
shade.
So, how long have you been fighting?
Since 2001.
Since 2001.
I got authorized for that Estrella because I was an Estrella queen with Matthias, and I decided I wanted to take the field. The rapier community came out, was like, "Hey, you got to do," and I'd done some fighting in the other group I've been in, and so I was like, "Yeah, they totally got me all excited about it." I'm like, "I'm gonna suck, but sure." And so they were really great. They got Ryan O'Dallas, who's now Master of Defense out of Glenaubin, made me a beautiful outfit, helped me with the authorization process, and I started fencing that first reign. And I think that Estrella's probably more about the not being able to keep up, because that battle, all those battles, I mean, I definitely wasn't a timid fight at the start. I'm very goal oriented and you give me an objective and a goal. My type A will start playing the chess game, and I'm like, okay, I know how to break this game. This is what we're going to do. And so I would just very, very clearly start to try to complete the mission, forgetting also that I'm the queen and I have people following me on the field to protect me. And so there was literally one battle, I remember in the battle pit, this is at Estrella, the Schnepp Farms with the battle pit. We're down in the battle pit. This battle with hay bales that were sheep and I don't know, whatever, but we had this line going on, and there was a break in the line. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I can get over there, I can get to the objective. I just need, because I was quick. I was a sprinter. This is what I did. I knew I could get there fast. I hadn't yet been yelled at 1,000 times about running on the battlefield. So I knew I could, there was definitely enough room for me to get back there. So I whispered, don't move, just stay, to my guardsmen who were trying to that were guarding me on this line. And they're like, what? And I'm like, ignore what I'm about to do. Huh? And so then I just ran for the goal and charged, and they were like, whoa! And they all just completely followed me. And I turned around and you guys were supposed to stay. We still managed to do okay, but it was that lesson of I can't just, well, now I can, but back then I wasn't able to just tell people, don't move, I got this. The rapier community likes to defend their queens, and I, I learned a valuable lesson that day. So
yes, I have seen this. So for those of you tuning in, if you ever get an opportunity, my favorite day of Estrella is the first day of war scenarios, because the entire afternoon in Cybod is spent with drinks and listening to these kind of stories that happened on the battlefield that day. And it is a riot. So if you ever get a chance, it's usually what, Friday afternoon when you guys start rolling in?
Afternoon.
yeah, well, Friday. Yeah, Friday after the battles. Yeah.
Depends on how late pickups go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
it's sitting around the campfire for sure. We tell our stories.
Yeah, it's epic. Friday afternoons are epic. They are my favorite days. And you are so animated when you're talking about what happens on the battlefield, and it's awesome. I'm like, I'm not even a rapier fighter, but it's like I'm there. I can see this in my head.
Oh my God.
So,
and they usually always have something to do with me, like running,
usually. Or everybody forgetting how quick you are, and suddenly you go, here I am.
So I have one of the best speed stories. If you want a battle story, I can tell you.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if you've heard this one. You might have, I don't know. But so my first time going to Pennsic as queen, when I was reigning the Summer of Love, when Craven and I were crowned, and we were reigning together, we went to Pennsic. And I took my stuff out. I was so excited because I'd been to Pennsic before, but I didn't fight. But I was like, oh, I'm queen. We had a huge rapier contingent. There was like, I think 12 of us. I don't know. It was huge for. I had my rapier champion, who was Lord Crispin. I had a former rapier champion, Chance. I had Michaelis. We had Sir Walrick. Numerous, like so many people I can't off the top of my. We had there's a great picture of all of us, like a bunch of 8 belt rapier fighters, and I was super excited. So we're taking the field, and since we were a smaller unit, we weren't that big. We were small, so we were trying to find somebody to fight with. And Chance is connected with the Black Tigers, and so he's like, oh, let's go fight with the Tigers. And I'm like, okay. At the time, I'm like, oh, okay, those guys, all right. I know they're super hardcore fighters. All right, that'll probably be fun. We won't lose badly. Great. And he went up to talk to the tiger that was there, and I'm not gonna say his name. Don't embarrass him. No, I'm just kidding. So he looks at Chance. And Chance like, I have the Queen of Atenbelt and her army. Could we? I'd like to fight with you guys. Can we tag in and fight with you guys? And he looks at me at a distance, and I'm this tiny little thing in my rapier kit. And he looks at Chance, and he's like, "Can she keep up with us?" And Chance literally just kind of stops and is like, "That won't be a problem." He's like, "Okay, she's got to keep up with us." He's like, that won't be a problem. Trust me, it won't be a problem. And so we get on the line. Now this is, I don't think you two haven't been to Pennsic yet. So you haven't seen, so this is on the main grass battlefield where there's like 2 hills coming down to like a flat middle area valley. So it's kind of like a little valley. Well, we were up on one side of the hill, and I got clarification. I get yelled at quite a lot for running on the field. So I made you get clarification. Can I run? What is running here? Because different conventions, things like that. And I didn't want to get scolded as the queen doing something I wasn't supposed to do and end up in some martial court and be an embarrassment. So I get the clarification. So I'm already, and the other army's like way on the other side. And this is a huge field compared to what we have at our current Estrella battlefields. And I'm like, okay, we got to get over there. And because we were on the left flank, and our unit's job was to sweep the left flank and push it over. That was our job. And so I'm like, okay, we've got to get there fast. We've got to knock them out. our whole unit, we had everything to go. All of my guys were young, ready to run, ready to go. This was quite about 8 years ago. We were all much younger, but we're ready to roll. We have our plan, and they blow the whistle for lay on, and I just blow past everybody and start running. And I'm running. All of a sudden, I realize I'm running by myself, and I literally turn around and I look at them and I go, "Are you guys coming or what?" And I turn around and then Tiger turns a chance like, "Yep, you were right." And we just swept the entire line and just push. All of a sudden we stopped, like felt like 30 seconds. I don't even know how long it was. And then we stopped, we looked, and we realized like there's nobody left but us. I'm like, how did we manage to do that? I was expecting to die badly, but it was so fun. And that's when, I formed a friendship with those guys, because they realized, yeah, she can hang. She
can hang. That's awesome.
She got the moves.
Yeah, I have had the pleasure of being on the edge of the battlefield, watching some of y'all's scenarios, and I will see a blur of you.
Whoosh.
And it's just because I know what your fighting kit looks like, but it is literally I swear to God, I saw her there. How the hell did she get over there before I finished blinking my eyes? And I've watched you do it, and it's the funniest thing, because you've got your own teleporter or something. It's like, boop, boop. Oh, there she went.
There she goes. There she goes.
So some folks don't realize how arty you actually are.
A little bit. I dabble.
You dabble?
Dabble.
Dabble.
Your background is one of the banners you made, isn't it?
No, this one I do believe was probably made by Sirs Mania, or it's an older school one. So
Okay.
This one I can't lay credit for, because it's an old picture. And I don't think this banner is even alive anymore. I think it's one of the ones that is very dead and tattered. But yes, I do make a few banners.
Yeah.
I do enjoy some silk banner painting. I don't enter competitions. I think that's why people don't realize I art, is because I don't do it for, and I know all my artisan friends will be like, but it's just not, I do it out of the sheer joy of, wanting to have a nice banner for the household, or like the Kingdom Walls, which I don't know what repair they are in anymore after the last flood we had, but the ones that had the sun, the Atenvelt ones, I painted both of those during Super Bowl one year at my brother's house when he was king. And then the Cybod wall, not all of the Cybod walls, but helped design those. And I do make garb. A lot of people they're like, the biggest thing is I enjoy being a Garby doll. Because I call myself a Garby doll because I'm a tiny blonde. And so I think that's appropriate. I'm okay associating myself with a Barbie doll and playing dress up. But one of the things that I really learned in my first reign, I made all the garb for Matthias and I made our stepping up outfit. I made our stepping down outfits. Actually, no, I didn't make our stepping down out. Somebody made those. That's where I got my Jose. Jose made those, and Eufemia. Those were gifted to us by Dame Alex. So that one I didn't do, but most of the garb in our reign I made. But that was before, number one, a lot of artisans were eager to provide their service. But number two, I felt really bad, like having some, because I made a lot of garb helped that Matthias and Schroll to their first reign make some of their garb. I made Matthias's coronation outfit and his second day outfit. So yeah, I've done a lot of garby stuff. But I felt really bad asking people to make stuff for me when I could sew myself, when I was perfectly capable. But I don't remember who it was, but a wise peer reminded me that if somebody approaches you and wants to make something for you, it's probably because number one, they want to, and number two, you can be a display for their work.
Their work.
You're the bullet, you're the what are those things on the side of the roads? God, my words fail me.
Billboard.
Billboard. Thank you. You're like a billboard, a walking billboard of their work. And so that's why my last, reigns, I've been much more, seeking out of artisans who I feel like need to be highlighted, or being very, if somebody wants to make something, like that's why Ewa, the Japanese outfit, when I walked out and that, everyone was like, what the heck?
That was amazing, by the way.
Coolest outfit I've ever worn. She did an amazing job on that outfit, for both myself, for Craven, and for Teddy. She did the whole gambit, and that was just because we had a conversation. I wasn't crown at the time, and she's like, if you ever win again, like, she wanted to see somebody do Japanese. Yeah. And it basically came out to, well, if I ever make it on the throne again, let's do it. And I feel I'd like to fulfill my promises if I can. And so she did, so I have a really cool Japanese outfit that eventually someday I'll bring out again. The makeup itself took like an hour. It was beautiful. And
yeah, that was the funniest thing, because poor Teddy, I remember looking at the look on his face as you came out, and it wasn't until you spoke to him did he actually realize that, oh wait, this is Mom.
Well, the best part of that was showing up to, I think it was Mason Greatsword event, and I wore the really low profile Anglo-Saxon crowns that don't get worn a whole lot, because it matched that high-end period to the best that I could. It fit Japan that as best as I thought. And Craven wasn't around, and I walk up and I sit on the thrones. Stink eye I got from people was amazing, and because they until all of a sudden I talked, then many people like, oh my God, because I had the black wig and I had the makeup, and I've never had my hair ever black. So, and nor will I ever again, because I look awful like that.
It was an awesome setup. I remember sitting there, and I was just kind of off to the side watching people's reactions, and and it was the funniest thing though. But even I had to take a double take at first, and I'm like,
the wig, the black hair really made it, like, finish the whole look, but then it changed everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm a firm believer of, that's why I have hats and fake hair pieces and all the things, because I like to try to do my best to if I'm going to do whatever period it is, do it to the best of my ability, top to bottom. I like to, that's why I like to wear hats. So I don't always want to wear a cornet or a veil, but I like to have my head covered, and it just makes me feel like I finished my outfit, kind of like putting on my period shoes. Like, there's just something about all of that. And then I have jewelry that's specifically my jewelry for the SCA. So it's like, it just kind of helps me feel like I'm stepping into something different, and stepping away from the mundane, stepping away from the modern, stepping into something new. It's why today I was like, I'm gonna put my hat on. I haven't worn it since March.
Yeah.
It's funny, because the one thing I have been doing while we've all been grounded is researching various head wraps, and different ways, because I realized that finishing touch alters your mindset. And it never really, dawned on me until recently that I'm like, time to play with this. So, and I don't like the veils, because for me, I'm like you, I'm on the move. I just don't move as fast as, I just don't move as fast as you do, but I'm always on the go. I'm always doing something, and veils get in my way, but wraps, I can get behind a wrap all day long, because then I don't have to fight the Kraken either.
And I feel like it finishes the outfit. And then also just in the aspect of, it doesn't matter what because mundane in the modern world, I have a very modern haircut. I have a very kind of boyishy pixie haircut, and that doesn't fit very well with a lot of the styles of clothing I wear. So, that's why I was like, well, I don't. I used to have very, very long hair, and I kept it that way. In fact, even my first reign, the day of the crown tournament, I told Matthias, if you win, I'll keep it. You lose, I'm cutting it. He won. So for 6 months, 9 months, I kept it. And then the weekend after we stepped down, Argyle cut it off. And I have never gone back. And it's just gone shorter and shorter and shorter. And that a lot of people actually are, that have been on my courts, or because I usually have it wrapped up, and nobody, some people are like, I didn't know you were blonde, or I didn't know you had super short hair.
I didn't know you had hair.
Just because it finishes it, and it keeps my hair cleaner. If it's hot, get it wet. And then I've got air conditioning going on. There's so many nice, just like the guys with their diaper hats, there's so many nice purposes for wearing it. And it keeps my hat clean and my inside of my coronet clean if I'm wearing it. There's a lot of value. It's just, I've become a firm believer of that, which is, of the head coverings and finishing the look and figuring it all out. And yeah, that's
fair. Do you have any future goals in mind?
No.
No.
To someday go to an event again. That's a pretty good goal. I feel super blessed that I've had the opportunity to accomplish a lot of things. And the funny thing is that I never had a single goal in the SCA to begin with. So it's hard. That's why it's hard to say, do I have any? It's like, I never had a goal to be a countess or a duchess, or I certainly, and all my friends know, never had a goal to be a master of defense. I did, once I started becoming a rapier fighter, want to become a white scarf. So I'm very proud of being a white scarf. I'm proud of all my peerages, don't get me wrong. But they weren't ever, I didn't have a goal to be a pelican. My goal is always just to show up at an SCA event and have fun. Yeah. And just enjoy hanging out with my friends in funny clothing and poking people with swords and, telling stories and, so I think my goal is to, I do personally, I was starting to work on some things for rapier to get better at certain things. I've, very much been a sword and buckler fighter, which, now I'm branching out to different things, non-melee, fighting in tournaments now, which people are shocked about because I've never enjoyed tournament fighting. It's not ever been something that gave me joy. And the whole point of the SCA was for joy. And so, I laugh that I finally fight in I fought in a few tournaments, but I fight in a tournament. I do well in it. And then we have, I'm dressed like a plague doctor in my kit nowadays. And then we have a pandemic close everything down. So I apologize for everyone for my new kit. Not my fault. I didn't. But when I decided my new kit looked like a plague doctor, and so I went all black.
It does, but.
Now, I gotta admit, I have some awesome photos of you in that kit. That is just a beautiful, beautiful setup. And we are very, very proud of the fact that you are one of our guardsmen. However, we are grounded right now.
Easiest guard duty ever.
Ever.
I thought, oh, this is my chance. Now can I ditch her?
Well, if this is how you guys wanted to ditch me, you did a dang good job, because
not our fault. Not our fault. We didn't do this. No, don't blame us. Not my fault.
That's debatable, but we'll talk about that later.
We'll debate.
going back to the sewing, that whole kit, except for the helmet, I made the Cossack and the pants and all of that is my construction. So I do sew, but I have been blessed with a lot of wonderful people who have sewn for me. And I love to be able, and that's why it's fun to be able to be like, oh no, this is made this for me, and this person made that for me, and every now and then somebody will come up and say, oh, who made that? Because they're used to people making stuff, and be like, I actually made this one for me. Most of the time, most of the stuff I make though ends up on Craven. Like most of his fighting kits are made by me. Like the painted ones that he wears. The ones that he's been as king and things like that. Usually he's the benefactor. And then my son is the benefactor of my stuff.
That doesn't sound familiar at all.
No.
This one knows how to sew.
My protege has been the benefactor. When he and I were herald for Merrick and Golda, we made I made us little matching herald outfits. So that we could kind of match, because we didn't want to do the full, he needed new garb and we wanted to kind of do something that worked well with his time period. So the herald outfit that he has, the blue and gold one, I made that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, how many students do you have?
Now currently I have 1, 2, 3. If I get this wrong, I'm going to be in deep trouble.
No, we're not trying to set you up.
Oops, sorry.
I have because I have some that have flown the coop or become masters of defense. So I now have 3 proteges and 1 provost, 3 minions and 1 accomplice, as I call them.
Nice. I like that. Minions and an accomplice.
Minions and accomplice. Because really, on the rapier field, if they're running with me, they're my accomplice in whatever shenanigans I'm going to cause.
Yes.
What?
I don't know.
Why are you looking at me when she mentions chaos?
Really?
I have not yet.
You are a redhead.
Right. That's what I was thinking too.
But yeah, no, and right now, I miss my flock, but they're doing good stuff, and
Good.
I've had one that I fostered, and she actually, I didn't, she came on full on, and then a year later I'm thinking everybody's mundane names. This is how non-SEA I've been for years. Her Excellency, my brain's fried. Former Baroness of Triscathir. Sabia, thank you. Sabia.
Okay. I know I put it in it, but at the same time, I was like,
I was trying not to say Renee, but hey, there we go. So Sabia, obviously she's a Pelican now, and then Heinrich was my first student of the MOD, and he's at MOD now.
So, and now y'all got a legacy going because isn't Caddick?
And Caddick, yeah. I have a little legacy chains on both sides. So yeah.
Nice. That's awesome to hear.
And actually the collar that Heinrich was elevated in was the collar was my premier collar. Nice. So I started that as a legacy chain, and then it's a leather one, so we can each add symbols of us on it to kind of continue to build the lineage, since the mod has very little right now, and we're creating it as we go. And it's still infancy.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, the funny thing is, and I find these all things a little difficult myself, because, you're family for us. We live together. I live these stories with you. So, for me, I'm like, oh, I know that. I'm thinking,
oh, I can take us in a direction.
Well, I'm like, I don't want to mention that one.
Oh, there's plenty of things out there.
There's plenty of things, but midnight grilled cheese.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God.
So do you want to know why it started or why the heck we do it? So I mean, to be honest, I still don't quite understand how it became a thing. But so Wednesdays at war, just because for Cybod, war is really busy.
Yes.
Generally, we have a lot of people in our household who are some type of staff, or there's been numerous times where we've been crown prince or whatever, or he's been seneschal through it. It's just busy.
Yeah.
And then and then I'm getting older, so going out and being cray revelry like the youngins do at war is not. It takes me a little longer to recoup. And so many, I was starting to get a little bit of flack from some of my friends for being, especially after I had my son, not going out like I used to and being the crazy duchess and all the things. And it's just also not as much of a desire to go out all night and do all those things because I have such a wonderful family in our camp that I was like, I don't need to go anywhere. But it's nice to go out and mix and mingle. And so Wednesday night started becoming the night that I would go out with kind of girls' night. So especially after we had a son, that I would get to go out and then dad would stay home in camp. And it would be, because we have to worry about who's staying, behind with the kiddo and be parents. So Wednesdays that would give me a full day of Wednesday to kind of recoup and recover before fighting on Thursday, or on Friday, sorry. And especially after Thursday, we used to have melees on Thursdays, but we don't anymore. So it becomes much easier now. But it was because I think now we're on our 4th year of Midnight Grilled Cheese.
Yeah. Easily, yeah.
4th year. Because I think, did you missed the first year of Midnight Grilled Cheese? That's why you don't know the story, because you guys were finishing the Thrones.
Yes, we were.
And so you couldn't make it up.
Yeah.
So we went out. So the first Midnight Grilled Cheese, I think it was just 4 of us. It was me, Merrick, Ryan, my protege, and my bestie, Ariana.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's somebody else besides that, I apologize. But I only remember those 4, and I was not in full capacity. And none of us were. But I know it was those 4. And we were gambling in the Landsknechts, playing, enjoying Wednesday night. Their party is Wednesday night. We were having a good time at the party. And it was starting to get a little quiet. It was starting to get a little mellow. And I just literally looked at everybody and was like, I'm hungry. Maybe I want grilled cheese. And Ryan's like, I'll take a grilled cheese. And Sam's like, let's go. And Merrick's like, I'm coming. And he just thought we all went back to camp. And so I started making grilled cheese sandwiches for those of us. Now, my husband says we were so full of our cups that it was we were quite entertaining to listen to. I don't remember if the Disney started at this one or the next one. I don't remember.
I know the following year
we did the Disney.
Yeah, y'all did the Disney.
Definitely Disney the following, yeah.
Because
I
remember waking up to Moana.
Yeah, it was Moana.
Very poorly sung Moana. But so it just started with that, like we had been all having a good night of revelry, and I was hungry, and so we went back and made grilled cheese. And then the next year, and I always have the bread and the cheese slices for the boys for lunch.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows me, I don't eat sandwiches a whole lot. Grilled cheese and PB&J are pretty much it when it comes to sandwiches. And so the next Wednesday of war, a year later, comes out, and the same crew just ended up again together, and they all kind of looked at me like, "Are we gonna go have grilled cheese, Ma?" like literally I felt like they were giving me that look. I'm like, okay, let's go. So it went the 4 of us, and then I think we grew by like 2, and that's when we started, because I think I had Rabbit,
Oh,
who was my
good.
student, and then maybe Rabbit might have came in the next year. I don't see, it's all a blur. That's the problem.
Well,
It's
so
all
we have
a drunken blur.
currently have very sober confirmation that the 4 of you were very in your cups, and no, there was no Disney.
Who's
Okay.
saddling?
Well, because the first one,
Oh, yeah.
first one we had camped right next to the kitchen was your student, her
Mhm.
husband, and their daughter. So we
Yes.
were cognizant that we needed to be quiet, but we weren't very quiet. All I know that every year in Midnight Grilled Cheese involves me hitting Merrick with a spatula.
Is that why they're bent now?
There's, for some reason he does, and I end up smacking him with a spatula. But he keeps coming back for grilled cheese. So
Yes.
every year it's always been, the same 4 of it. This year it grew to like, I think I made like 20 grilled cheeses. There was a point finally like, the kitchen's closed. I'm already sober. I'm going to bed.
I had to laugh because the very next year we actually had to plan enough bread to do
And
this.
cheese.
But unfortunately, it became like an anxiety point for me a little bit, because of like, it had been just so kind of spontaneous, and that's what I enjoyed about it. But then all of a sudden it became this thing, like if I didn't do it, I was going to have these people, I was just afraid people would be like, so it turned out being fun, and we had a good time, and we'll definitely this Australia will bring it back, because good heavens, we need to have a good time.
We need to have a good
And
time,
so yeah, but
So
like, it's just, I think, and part of the grilled cheese came off of when I go to, it's really all Great Western War's fault. It's the Cock and Bull. They're wonderful tavern. If you've ever been to their tavern, you've been to the Great Western War, the Cock and Bull. Yeah. Well, inevitably, when I don't know what night they do it, they might do it numerous nights, but they'll roll around with grilled cheese and just give them out to everybody who's having a good time at their tavern. And so it was just one of those things where I'm like sitting in the Lansing camp, and we're rolling the dice, and I'm just like, grilled cheese. I have all the makings for grilled cheese. I'm gonna go make grilled cheese, and it became a thing.
well, I don't go out with you guys on Wednesday nights. I don't know why. I just don't. But I have to fully admit that there have been many a Wednesday nights that I get woke up and I'm laying there laughing hysterically, listening to what's going on in the kitchen. And it is kind of a highlight for me, because I'm like, what voice is that? Who is that? Oh, that's Merrick. Somebody fell backwards off of a cooler.
I think that was Merrick.
It was.
I think that was when he was king.
Oh, figures. Okay.
And then y'all got shushed by Kegs In.
I don't know if it was Kegs In. I think it was somebody else, but I don't know. If it was Kegs In, I'm like, really? Because you guys like wake me up all the time.
And just the fact of somebody shushed y'all. I was like,
all I know is that this last year we strategically placed the kitchen with Wednesday night grilled cheese in mind, because we're like, who's camped around here? Okay, nobody. All right.
We got that. Yeah.
So now we have to like strategically think about where we're putting the kitchen, because we know Wednesday it might get a little loud.
it might get loud.
We're planning on loud. Yeah.
Hey, I gotta give at least like Juliana, when she heard it, she got up, just put on clothes, and came in, had a grilled cheese.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of times I'm like, it's nice, warm and toasty in here, but I really want to go join in.
I want to go play.
I think that the karaoke might have been Sir Valora's fault, but I'm not exactly sure. Like I said, it's all a blur, and I was never fully. I was capable of cooking grilled cheese and focusing on that, so that's about all I really remember.
That's awesome. I love Wednesday night midnight grilled cheese.
Yep.
It is the funniest thing to me. And I've seen some of y'all roll through the camp the next day, and I'm thinking, ooh.
Good night. That was a good night.
Yeah. I can tell you the day that I hurt the most was the day that our camp became Lake Saibad, and I'm just sitting on my bed like going, I just want to take a nap, but I'm afraid I will drown.
Oh.
Yes. You know, and it's unfortunate that I can relate to this because I'm like, yep, I remember watching the water rise thinking,
Uh-oh.
this might prove to be a problem.
And it just wouldn't stop raining.
No. Hey, I got to see snow that night. It was great.
Right? And the next day, I was pretty convinced that I woke up in northern Texas all over again. I'm like,
yeah.
Right?
What happened here? And why?
You know what? In all of my years of like, I have camped at so many different SCA events, and there's not one of them that hasn't had a crazy weather story. You know, so it's just the aspect of reminding us all that we are camping. We are out in the elements. We are not in a house. You can't control the weather. It will control you. You know, but all you can do is just kind of deal, because I've had scorchers at Great Western War. We've had floods at, you know, Penzic. It's, you name it. You tornadoes at Gulf Wars, you know.
Yes.
We've had microbursts at Estrella.
Oh, yeah.
We all have the epic weather story. I mean, now in my mandatory packing list is, do I have my wellies? You know, don't care what the weather forecast calls for. Are the wellies in the truck?
I liked having them just anyway to take. So I was glad I had them that war, because they were great for popping on when you got to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
Yeah, they're good bathroom.
Like, boop, 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 you know, but it's like they finally served a real purpose.
Yes.
Right? there is that moment, man. So now, of course, we look forward to our next adventure together, whatever that might entail. At some point when we're all done being grounded, a guardsman.
Our guards.
I feel like I'm getting set up for something.
We need to,
Maybe just a little bit, but it'll be fun. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a
What,
little.
Your Excellency, what are you setting me up for?
Well, I don't know. You know.
Well, if we told you, you wouldn't be surprised.
Wait. That's a valid point. Thank you, my love.
You're welcome.
Well, you know, living in suspended animation, and of course, none of us want to relive 2020 at this moment.
Yep.
However, we can reboot 2021.
Right.
So, the odds that we are going to sweet talk you into bringing out your plague doctor and going round 2 is substantially high. So just so you know.
I'm very, one of my goals definitely, like, you know, back to that is like being able to go out and fight again, because, you know, it's been, you know, I getting the rust off and the dust off, and, you know, I've been seeing my helmet sit in my, you know, my SCA room for 6 months now, since March. What was the weekend of that tournament, you know? And so I'm looking forward to it, you know, and right now, you know, my husband and I, well, he's been so busy, we keep talking about just going in the backyard and stabbing each other, but it just hasn't happened just yet. It will, though. Eventually I'll start forcing him to go out there and fight with me out in the backyard.
You should totally do that.
I swear to God, SCA folks have it the easiest. If you have a marital argument, put your armor on and go in the backyard and stab each other.
And figure it out.
There you go.
let's go. Let's have a little toe to toe. Yeah, no.
And it's sanctioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm waiting, I've heard all the tales from way back in the day, people in the park fighting and, somebody called the cops on them. And I'm like, now this is way, way, way back in the beginning, dawn of time days.
Midst of time, yeah.
I have, and I'll have to find it because I've got to get it to Viscountess Victoria for the history books. Yes. But I have the story of the first fighter practice that happened in a park out in California. And suddenly you have SCA fighters pairing off against police, riot police.
Is that the riot gear?
Yeah, the riot gear. And I have this whole story, and it's the neatest thing,
Wasn't it by one of the participants directly there? So it's like primary?
The king was there.
Okay.
According to the story. Now, of course, I don't know who wrote the story. I don't know how it came in my possession, I don't know how much of it's legend versus fact. Because, legends are a thing in our world,
And there's probably even if it is just legend, there's a grain of truth in all legend.
Exactly.
Gotta find out what that truth really is.
So I'm waiting to hear, and the point of all of that is waiting to hear the stories that come out of this, people getting in their backyard to have fighter practice because they so desperately need to have a fighter practice,
right? That
their neighbor called the cops because it's such a new thing. So I'm waiting to hear that story start rolling in.
I remember when we first moved into this house, and Craven had a pretty decent sized fighter practice going on for a bit on Thursday nights, so instead of Tuesdays. One of the nights, the neighbor boys in the backyard they popped up on the fence. They grabbed a couple beers. They were just watching, like, what are you guys doing? And they were rooting. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah.
See, those kind of stories. So I'm waiting for us to stop being grounded to start hearing about those kind of stories. So, got anything else?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
So,
I got my midnight grilled cheese mayhem in, so I'm good.
Dude. Now the world knows. Darn it! Now I can't keep it quiet anymore.
I think that ended a few years ago. Just saying.
You weren't too good at keeping it quiet during the grilled cheese. So.
Well, and my students weren't too good at keeping it quiet either. They definitely. And the word, that's all right. It's the word spreads. It's odd because it's fun, and that's.
It is.
It would if people would want to come to it if it wasn't something fun.
Yep.
Oh, it's a riot. Like I said, Wednesday nights are my favorite night because I may not bounce out, but by the time y'all make it back to camp to make grilled cheese, I hear the funniest things. And I'm laying there and I'm just laughing hysterically because some of the things I've heard. But waking up to your protege, Ryan, his lordship, Ryan, singing Moana. At the top of his lungs.
He was actually doing a pretty good job too.
He was carrying a tune pretty good. And I remember laying there and I'm laughing because then didn't you start singing the Little Mermaid song you do?
Oh, Les Poissons. Yeah.
You did. Yeah, you rolled right into that one shortly after, and there was no doubt everybody was drinking.
Yep.
No doubt. So it's a lot of fun. But we thank you very much for joining us tonight. This has been a blast. And I always have a great time, especially, when you're very animated. And it's awesome when you tell stories.
I think it's genetic.
Can't deny.
So, but we want to thank you so much for joining in for the Ygithrian Allthing. This has been wonderful catching up. And oh, I miss your face so much.
Me too. Thank you for having me. It was nice to do something a little different on a Saturday night. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, we're getting there. We're getting there.
It's getting
But
closer.
January 31st is getting closer. That's I just keep reminding myself of that.
It's getting
so,
there. Yep.
We'll get there.
So for those of you that are tuned in tonight, thank you so much. It has been a blast sitting here. And don't forget, next Saturday, we are doing Dragon's Horde Virtual World. And we are going to be doing the Bard of the Boar competition. So tune in. It'll be great. His Lordship Ryan is spearheading all of that, and he is a fabulous bard, and I know he's bringing lots of bards in with him.
I might have to request Moana from him.
Oh God, yes. So now there's a theme to this Bard of the Boar: legendary journeys. So bring your best legend, bring your best story, bring your best song. We'll see you guys next Saturday for Dragon's Horde. We're going to start at 4 p.m. Arizona time.
Arizona.
Pacific. Are we
Pacific.
on Pacific? You know, this daylight savings time's got me so messed up in the virtual world.
We don't do it, but it still messes us up.
So tune in and we will see you guys then. We have some shenanigans planned with court, so it should be fun. So Your Grace, thank you so much. And guys, we'll see you next time.
Good night.